Hey guys, this is another YouTube questionnaire, or question and answer, sorry, taken from your questions on Instagram and on my story. So I've written down 3 of the best questions, or three questions that I want to answer in a little bit more depth and hopefully give you as much value as possible. So, question 1, how can I keep my speed when injured? This is a tough one, depends really on the injury, and also, you know, you're going to have patience when you're injured, because speed is one of the quickest physical qualities that kind of decays after 5 days. Top end speed's been shown to decrease. So if it's a long-term injury, you know, you're going to have to really come to terms with losing speed, but then actually that is not a reason to return to full fitness slower than when you gain the injury or when you actually got the injury. You want to make sure that you're returning to at least prior state speed or quicker than what you were prior to injury. So making sure that you have a speed-based approach during your rehab is really important. So actually your lower body prep work, depending on what injury it is, you know, make sure that there's a nice theme there, that actually that's going to translate to when I go back to do some speed mechanics on the pitch, or when I'm going back to work on my acceleration or my max velocity. That may be some positional work in the gym. So when you do your calf isometrics, you're into a sprint position rather than just a normal stand position. You know, you're working on some key things that are going to help projection, so hip hinging, making sure that you're getting those lower body muscles as strong and as powerful as possible. You build some really good tissue tolerance and capacity within your calf, your hamstrings, your glutes, your quads. So then when you do go back onto the pitch, you've got a nice phase return into maximal sprinting, and you know, you're ready for it. It's not gonna add a risk to your injury or put you back to square one. You're gonna be able to tolerate speed training and then tolerating high-end speed exposure where you are maximally sprinting and accelerating in your week. To get to that position, okay, you're going to need to tick off some key markers from an injury perspective. Whether it's an upper body injury, there won't be, unless you have an operation, there's a really good opportunity there to keep working on some speed work, as long as it's not going to affect that injury anyway. And then when you are back on the pitch, making sure that you've got a graded return into full speed training. Now, if it's your first week back on pitch, I wouldn't expect you to be hitting any max velocity numbers or distances, maybe just working on the technical aspect, so actually you're ready to then repeatedly expose yourself to high-end speed training, whether that's some resistance runs as well as a nice way to kind of tone it down a little bit, but work on other areas of that acceleration. And you know, before going into training and team training, you're in a good position to do so, and you can really tolerate that load and high speed load as well. Definitely take some markers with regards to where your speed is and what time you're hitting 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters. It's always a good one to kind of refer back to, and making sure that actually the stuff you're doing on the pitch and in the gym is translating to your top end speed. So hopefully that helps. The next question, best way to develop robustness and resilience from injury. So I'm assuming you mean just preventing injury and staying injury free when you're playing. The biggest one's just going to be consistent game time in the saddle, where you are, you know, you're used to kind of recovering every week and playing every week, making sure that in your week you are keeping on top of maybe prior injuries. So whether you've had a shoulder injury or an ankle injury, you're actually doing stuff in the week to kind of help keep on top of it, and making sure that, you know, that area is ready to withstand it. It's always prepped and activated and ready to go and train or go and play. So whether that means in your own individual warm-ups, you do some isolated work around your shoulder, ankle, knee, wherever that injury is, and making sure that you're lifting heavy throughout the week. A key one is reverse engineering from game day. So if you're in season currently, making sure that your week really tailors up and builds up nicely. You're not going in fatigued and putting yourself at a higher risk of injury, or you're fatigued going into the game. So the last thing you want to be. So making sure that your week has some ebbs and flows with regards to intensity and volume, and it's planned out well, to make sure that actually you hit the ground running come game day, or each week that you are in off season, you're creating nice progress, and you're not just piling on more fatigue and putting yourself in that area of risk, I suppose. So just making sure then key points are reverse engineer from game day. Where is your main goal? What do you need to improve on? and then making sure that in your gym sessions there's a key focus maybe on certain aspects with regards to prehab/rehab if they are prior injuries, and making sure that you've got a well-rounded program. It's not one-dimensional where you become a powerlifter. Your whole program has little dimensions to it, whether it's speed, whether it's injury robustness, your main strength work, your main power work, your energy system development. There's a whole big kind of picture that you're trying to build all together. You don't want to just go down a rabbit hole on one thing and then forget about everything else. So making sure that you've got a nice holistic approach to your training and to your S&C, because that way it's going to transfer to your rugby performance. Where should I put my power work in my gym session? So great question. Now, I did a post last week around some complex training where you couple it with strength work. Now, I really like that method to develop out and out power. Those kind of acute responses and adaptations that you do get is going to increase your power output. So your peak power, your jump height, your jump distance, things like that, because your neuromuscular system's heightened. So you're recruiting that really well to actually express more force in a shorter time frame. So that's a great way to do it. And those real short-term gains done over time consistently are going to add up, and you're going to become a more explosive, powerful athlete. But you want to make sure that you're fresh. So you're going to have enough rest time between those exercises, and then also in your warm-up is a great way to do it. So rather than do it at the end of the session when you've done a load of strength and hypertrophy work, you can do it at the start when you're nice and fresh. So you're getting the most from it. You're not in a fatigue state. Power plyometrics, where you are going maximal intent on certain exercises. You can't be doing it as a circuit and for time. It needs rest. It requires rest. You need everything to be recovered fully to get the most out of it, because power requires maximal intensity. The other way in the week, I like to put it at the end of the week in a primer. The majority of the power-based work for my athletes, because I know they're fully recovered from the game the previous weekend, and then we just use it as a primer going into the Saturday, and they get some nice post-activation kind of potentiation for the following game. And it's a nice way to kind of structure the week as well, that I find. So there's 3 different options there. You can have it in your prep to lift. You can use them all. You can have it in your prep to lift prior to your strength lifts. You can couple them with your strength movements and add a little bit of contrast, maybe some French contrast training where you have a strength movement followed by 3 velocity-based movements. Or you can kind of use your Monday, Wednesdays more strength days, and then have a power/concentric day on the Friday building into game day. That's how I would do it. There's no real right or wrong, just I would avoid putting your power work at the end of the session where you're fatigued, because you're not going to get your biggest bang for your buck. Those are 3 questions done in probably under 10 minutes. I hope that helps. If there's any questions, please just drop them in the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe. Cheers.